Welcome to this one, and today we're going to talk about all things ADHD. Who said that because you have ADHD, you have to lack focus, be overwhelmed, and have anxiety all of the time? Nobody did. What if you would have ADHD and still thrive? With me today is Shane, and Shane has lived the ADHD journey and somehow has managed to move from that chaotic place to a place where she creates systems that actually work with her brain. And she's now using that to create processes for people like her who might have an ADHD brain and can't fit in the normal systems that everyone is asking you to use. I don't have the brain, but my husband has the brain. And sometimes I wish that I knew how to understand what's going on with him. So today, hopefully, I'll be asking questions for myself because my husband is like highly ADHD. And so hopefully by the time we're done, you will have picked something for yourself and hopefully that you can lean in and get real support from Shane. We're going to talk about like her story, her struggles, and how she went through all of it. We're going to talk about her process, like how do you move from confusion, anxiety, chaos to like real systems that help you? And we're going to talk about really like the struggles of ADHD and everything in between because it's an organic conversation. So pull your stool, sit tight. And if you have a dear one that has ADHD and you love so much that you wish for them to thrive, now is the time to press the share button, grab the link, and invite them along. All right, let's get into it. Shane, first of all, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Thank you so much for allowing me to share this with everyone. I appreciate it.
I can't wait to get in the ways. I'm just wondering, like, my first question is, how long did it take you to kind of figure out how to max your abilities as an ADHD person? Like, how many years in the weeds did you have to struggle until you're like, okay, now I get it. Now I have this together.
I think I actually knew I was different all my life, but I didn't
Mm.
quite understand that the biggest part of it was coming from ADHD. So that
Mm.
wasn't until the mid-30s that I found out that I had ADHD. So I'd say it didn't really start figuring it out until then.
So then you're 30, you get diagnosed or whatever, and then how long did it take you to actually figure out some systems for yourself?
That took probably just a few years, kind of trying to piece things together, doing a little research on my own. But I think it's something that's an ongoing process because as we
Mm.
go, change. And as we change, we just adapt the process. But that's the skill, that's the tool, learning how to adapt as you go.
I was reading your work, and you said that people are trying to use the standard systems of the world with ADHD brains, and that's not going to happen because they are not meant for this a special brain. Can you tell us what we're getting wrong with wanting ADHD people to get organized and have the systems that we use if we have like other disorders? Everyone has their own disorder anyway. But like, what's wrong with the systems we're trying to use to help ADHD type of people?
They're considered for a neurotypical brain, which means
Mm.
pretty much the majority of the world. Okay. And then the
Mm.
process that we're having is you have to go from A to B, like go in a straight line, have that, here's your task, now complete it. The situation with an ADHD brain is we have a task that we're given, but to complete it, we don't go in a straight line. We may veer
Mm.
over here, we may do some squirrely circles, we may do all kinds of things, but it's getting from point A to point B is a different type of thing in a different type of way. So if you're having them do that same type of thing, it doesn't compute in our mind. In the ADHD brain, it's got to be something that is relatable to them, helps
Mm.
them to know, like answers the question of why, and then it moves it forward.
Mm. I love that. What is your definition, association with the diagnosis ADHD? Because I have seen people who think it's a problem, they need to be fixed. Something's wrong with them, they need to focus on it. What is your definition or association or mental interpretation of ADHD in a way that it can empower? Because my interpretation is that they have a gift. Like ADHD is a gift. there is things, for example, that my husband does that I can't do. And I look at him and go, man, like, how did you do that? And he's like, ADHD. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, I can't do that. So help me understand kind of how can we begin to look at ADHD in a way that is empowering? Because I think that is what helps me personally is kind of looking at him and going, ADHD genius. Like, man, I would never do that. As opposed to you're broken, you need to be fixed. You need to focus. I cannot try to do that. But I know it can be hard for most people, especially if you're married to someone who doesn't look like they can focus on one thing at a go.
That is true. We get pushed on us, like in the schools and in our learning and education and things, we get pushed on us, hey, you should be able to do it like this person, or that comparison of they're getting it done, why can't you? So that creates that part of I can't do it as good as, I'm not good enough, I'm not, it's I'm not, and whatever you want to put at the end of that. The bottom line is our brains do work and process differently. And the way to look at it is as a gift. I love how you put that as it's a gift because it's something that we can take and cultivate, just like a plant or a flower. When you put the seed in the ground, it doesn't just automatically bloom. You've got to give it water, give it sun, give it food, and all of that. It's the same with learning how to deal with your ADHD, taking it a step at a time to help it to grow and flourish. So it's learning that process of what do you need for the water? What do you need for the food? What do you need for the sun to be able to create that and allow that gift to come out instead of allowing everybody to tell you what you aren't doing or how you're not participating or how you're not getting it done.
I wonder what was your turning point? Because a lot of people have ADHD and they just think, oh, I'm just like that, or I'll just struggle through, or anxiety is a given, or I don't know, I just can't get stuff done because I have ADHD and it becomes a title. And I don't know, I'm overwhelmed. Why? Because I have ADHD. Like it becomes a title and something to lean on to really not allow yourself to shine. And I'm just wondering, like, what was your rock bottom? When did you decide you wanted to solve this? Because not everybody who has ADHD has created a system for themselves to actually thrive.
Right.
So take me
Right.
there, that part of your story. Like, when did you have enough? What happened? And how did you kind of move from there to like where you are right now, helping everybody else?
That's a great question. To really hit that rock bottom, I think that happened after a car accident that I had where I had a pretty bad concussion
Mm,
and it set back all the things that I'd already figured out and all the things that I already learned in the processes of just being able to just do it naturally to now I had to start all over again. And so it became more intentional. It became more of something that I had to figure out, take a hold of, and learn how to take care of not only the physical side of the ADHD, but the emotional and the mental side of, oh, now I am broken because of the concussion. Now I am having a problem. And now I am, whatever I added to the end of that. I think that's where it really pivoted. And that was just about 3.5 years ago. And so it's never too late. I want people to
mm,
realize that no matter what age group you are diagnosed in, doesn't matter. It's starting at
mm,
that point and moving forward. If you want something different in your life, take a hold of it and stop
mm,
using the ADHD as your identity. That's just a characteristic of who you are. That's not completely your whole being. That's just a
mm,
part. And I think that's kind of where people are going is my identity is my ADHD. No, that's not your identity. That's just a part of you. You have a whole other gamut of your world of who you are.
mm. I really like that. I really like that. If someone is listening in and they don't have ADHD, but they do have a closed one, like me, who has ADHD, and they quite don't get it. What is it that you wish people understand about people with ADHD so that they can be more accommodating and more supportive and more helpful in the situation other than judgmental and all of the things?
That's a great question because I actually rolled through that with my own son. He's
Mm,
pretty ADHD, and he has been. And I
mm,
think it came down to realizing that the expectations that I had on him were the expectations over here of what everyone else is expecting him to be like or what everyone else is expecting him to do. And once I
mm,
took that away and said what really works for him, and is
mm,
it okay? Is he hurting himself? Is he hurting someone else? And I don't mean like physically, but emotionally. No. Okay, then his way of doing it's okay. and
Mm,
accepting them for where they are and allowing their gifts to grow, allowing them to be able to explore that and look at it and then ask questions. Why doesn't that work for you when we do it this way? And why does it work for you doing it this way? When you start asking those questions, you allow them to give you the information from them specifically, because each of us, our ADHD is not all the same. It's not a one size fits all. So
mm,
it's different for each person. That's why you have to create your own process. Certain things will work for everyone, but not
mm.
everything will work for everyone.
So, picking curiosity and not assumption or judgment. If just asking them like, why does it work like that? Why do you need it like that? Why do you do this? Hmm, that's really helpful there. I'm just wondering at this point because I know we've spoken before, and we got to a point of there's a gift below the gift, and I want to get there. Like, what does that mean? Like finding the gift below the gift. The outside might look like ADHD, but what is the genius below the ADHD? And so what I'm really asking is
Mhm.
like, what's the process of finding my gift, the gift below whatever the thing is that I seem to see? Like, how can I find the
Yeah.
genius below the ADHD, if you will? Or how can I create myself a system to help me thrive? Or what is the process of really like creating a system that works for I don't know how you want to explain that, but what's the process there? How do I move from chaos to thriving?
Well, being willing to accept the chaos first and say,
Mm,
okay, that's the way it is right now. And that's okay because I'm
mm,
going to try something. Is that going to work? No. Okay, well, I'm going to set that aside. Now I know that that doesn't work, but what is something else I can try? And
mm,
realize that the ADHD is not an impediment if you
mm,
can allow yourself to recognize the chaos, have the awareness of what's going on around you, and seeking out what worked for me. So there's a lot of issues that are coming about that we don't realize because we're not willing to say, yes, there's a lot of chaos going on. And yes, I have a problem. And yes, I need to deal with this. And yes, I need somebody to step in and guide me. And that's
mm,
okay. It's that part right there. It's okay to allow someone else to guide me. And the gift below the gift is allowing you, once you recognize that chaos, you can start looking below that and saying, what am I really good at? What do I
mm,
really enjoy doing? What do I have the gift in doing? I mean, we forget that a lot of the really high entrepreneurs in the world have
mm,
ADHD. If you look at like Elon Musk and you look at Jeff Bezos and you look at Steve Jobs, all of them had ADHD.
mm,
So why not embrace it? Say, yeah, I do have a little bit of chaos going on in my life. I'll figure it out. It's okay. We'll do it. No worries. And just
mm.
go forward.
Wow. So accept the chaos for what it is,
Mm,
and then go deep and kind of find, but what are the things that I can do that nobody else can do? And how can I use all of what I have to maximize this thing? Like my
right.
husband can be listening to a book while coaching someone, while talking on the phone, while creating some other things, and while talking to me. And I'd be like, huh? What are you doing exactly? Are you doing that thing or that thing? I was like, I'm talking to you. I'm like, huh, it doesn't feel like that when there's a book there and music there. And I'm like, but he's like, seriously, this is helping me to focus on what we're talking about. And I'm like, huh,
Right.
I don't know. So how then do give me kind of 1 to 5 or 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 because accept the chaos, yes. Okay,
Mhm.
dig further and kind of find that gift, whatever the thing is. Like, so how do I then go to thriving? Like, are there other steps in between there, or did I miss something?
No, you didn't. Sometimes it's just a jump saying, you
Mm,
know what? I'm tired of feeling like this. I'm going to go and look. I'm going to go and
mm,
try it.
mm,
But sometimes it is somebody walking in and saying, hey, it's chaotic for you. What if you let me walk through? What do you use to
mm,
be able to get things done? Well, I don't have the time to get things done because everything's all over the place. Okay, let's pull that down. And you have somebody who
mm,
walks through the process. An example is somebody who talked to me and worked with me and said, I can't get anything accomplished. I get bored with it after so long. I said,
Mm,
okay, so what do you do? I avoid it. Okay, well, if you're avoiding it, are you getting it done? No. Okay, so what about trying 15 minutes on it? And then
mm,
go pick another task that's not so boring at that moment. Jump into that for 15 minutes and ping pong back and forth until you're done. Because then the
mm,
boredom isn't the problem. It's move into something else. Now my brain can move on to something else. And it's not uncommon, like what you said about your husband, where we're doing multiple things. Because
mm,
if you're sitting still, for someone who's ADHD, sitting still is not an option that does well. Okay.
mm.
You see people tapping their feet, you see them bouncing their legs, you see them tapping their fingers on the desk or whatever. And sometimes it's
Mm,
really annoying that we're doing that. But
mm,
what it's doing is it's settling down one part of our brain to allow the other part to kick in.
mm,
So it's like we have two brains go on all the time. So one gets settled by one action and the other one kicks in to do the other action.
mm. It's that's really good. I'll give them an example. For me and my husband to have a conversation, he literally has to kind of have like TikTok in his ears. And meanwhile, we're talking, and this is like a serious conversation. And sometimes in my head, I'm like, dude, like, really? But then I get to remind myself that this is the only way that he can pay attention. But it can be so hard, especially if it's a conversation where you're trying to make your point, and the only way they can listen to you is literally by like scrolling on TikTok.
A little
It's
distraction there.
a little
Yeah.
distraction. So what you're
Mhm.
saying is identify what the problem is. And for him, even when he's like reading a book, he won't read one book. He read one chapter in this book, another chapter in this book, another chapter in this book. I like he'll have 5 books and he's reading them at
Mhm.
once. And I'm like, huh? And he's like, yeah, I just can't read from one person. I need 5 opinions. I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
And one book
And
could be
see,
on audio, another book is on Kindle, and another book is in his ears, and another book. And I'm like,
uh-huh. And that's
so,
part of his own
mm,
process that he's
mm,
learning that this is how it works for me. And that's
mm.
awesome.
So then it is for looking at what am I struggling with and kind of
Mhm.
saying, what can I try? And piecing together the parts that work for you, even though that looks awkward for other people, but accepting that you may have to piece pieces together and they don't have to make sense to anyone else but you. As long as it helps you accomplish the goal, as long as it helps you get stuff done, as long as it helps you achieve what you're trying to achieve without overwhelm, without anxiety, without all the chaos, then it's okay. Whatever works for you is okay, and no one has to understand it. Is that like what you're saying there?
Yes, I am. Because
Mm,
when we start accepting in what other people are saying about how we're doing our process, we can
mm,
accept in suggestions and saying, hey, what if you? But then being able to say, okay, I'm looking at myself, and this
mm,
person said, what if you tried it this way? Have you tried it that way before and it didn't work? Then don't accept it. Or maybe you
mm,
haven't tried it that way before and you choose to do it. But that doesn't mean if it doesn't work for you, there's something wrong with you. It just means that that's not the process for you. And
mm,
it's very interesting watching the dynamics of people with ADHD working with those that don't. If they have
mm,
the understanding of how people with ADHD work, then there's a very good cohesion that goes along because they get them and the ADHD people get them. That doesn't mean they
mm,
have to do things the same. So
mm,
it's like that in relationships too, which it can cause a lot of problems in relationships if there is not communication and understanding and saying, hey, that doesn't work for me. If you want to do it that way, great, it's okay. But that doesn't work for me. I need to be able
mm,
to do it this way if you want me to accomplish the task, if you want me to get the things done that you've asked me to get done. And so it's just having a lot of that communication back and forth and not accepting the things that other people say into yourself and basing
mm.
who you are upon their comment.
I like it. I like it. Like that was the time I was really struggling to understand, and I got me a video from Russell Brunson, and he was explaining his ADHD head, and he was on a runner, like in his office, he has like a runner under the desk going on, and then he was typing, and then he was having headsets, and then he was reading, and then he was talking to somebody else, and he was like explaining exactly what he needs to function, and that really helped me. Kind of, so this guy has to be
Mhm.
on a runner every day. Like he has a runner under his desk, and he has to stand and like just that's how he works. And I was like, So he keeps sending me this kind of videos to help me kind of get it, because he doesn't want to feel
Uh-huh.
like he's disrespectful. So I think it's really helpful if you pick curiosity instead of like choosing blame and kind of, wow.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so what else do we need to know? Like, I've accepted the chaos. I have accepted that this is going to be, there's going to be something I do about this because the systems that I'm looking for are probably not
Mhm.
existent. And even like forgiving
Right.
yourself from like looking for, I need to manage my time and I need to be organized and I need to look and I need this guru. And like maybe you don't need a guru. Maybe the guru for your cocktail hasn't been bought. Like maybe there's no one who's like you, and maybe you're the guru for yourself. And what I'm picking is moving from the outside search for solutions to the inside search of
Right.
something that could work for, because you can get really
Right.
desperate trying to fix yourself using the standard guru methods as opposed to looking on the inside and using whatever is
Mhm.
happening for you to put together something that can work for you, and being okay if that has never been tried by someone, because maybe no one has your ADHD number or whatever the type is. I like that. What
Right.
have we left out in the process of moving from chaos to thriving that we need to add to this piece?
I would say it'd be great if you can learn how to accept criticism
Mm,
and be able to say that it's in one way of explaining it, say, take the criticism. Anybody wants to say anything. Everybody has an opinion in the world.
mm,
Everybody does on how you should do things, how you shouldn't do things. Imagine putting a basket in front of you and letting everybody's criticism and all their suggestions and everything go in that basket, right?
mm,
But not go in here, not go within you. Just put it in that basket and then set it down. And in those
mm,
times where you can have a moment to reflect, pick one of them up and say, okay, is this really true about me? And be
mm,
very, very honest with yourself, because if there is a criticism that comes in or a suggestion that comes in this, and you see that it is about yourself, okay, then the next question is, do I want to change it? Do I
mm,
want it to be different? And if the answer is no, then you just take it and imagine in your mind, just chuck it, because it's not for you to carry. So
mm,
nobody wants to carry this big ginormous basket around of everything. Just
mm,
dump it, start over. Taking yourself out of the picture of whether I'm good enough, I'm doing enough, I'm enough. Take it out of there, because it's not about that. It's about figuring out a process. Is this working or is it not? Is this
mm,
giving me results or is this not? So when you take it away from who you are and just put it in a function of what you are doing, that's different. And that way you can keep it separate from who your identity is. It's just a function of what you're trying to figure out how to do.
I
And
really
I
like
do
what you're
suggest that
saying.
people seek out, yeah,
Mm,
and I do suggest that people seek out other people that are ADHD and say, hey, what worked for you? And then
mm,
look at it. Doesn't mean you have to do their way, but just look at it. Because the more information you gain, the more choices you can pick from to decide, is that going to work for me or not?
I like that. I also
And
like what you're saying about criticism or people's opinions or comments, because there's people who struggle with that. I generally don't struggle much with opinions because I just deflect most of them. Like for
Mhm.
me, my first filter is, do I really want to be listening to this person? And if the answer is no, doesn't matter what the comment is, I'll just, instead of a basket, for me, I have like a dustbin.
Right. You just go,
It's like a
yeah.
dustbin. And so people can give me their opinions, but for me, once you give me an opinion, the first question is this the kind of person that I want to take advice from? Do they have what I want? And if you don't have what I want, or you don't have the experience I'm after, I'm gonna get that and put it in the dustbin. Like, and that's it. Like most of it just bounces and boom. It's like basketball. It hits and just goes boom, boom. It's like I'm dunking them
Bounces
down.
off.
And I think because of that, I never take personal. I never take anything personal. It doesn't mean anything. It's just people are
Uh-huh.
trying to be helpful, and they're only using the lens of the world to kind of tell you what they would do and what they wish for you and what they're really coming from a place of love. And so receive, and
Mhm.
then I don't know. For me, I just dunk it into a dustbin or go, this person I really want to learn from, so I'm going to put it over here, and I will look at it and say,
Right.
okay. this might be a good idea, but do I want to do this? No. Okay, cool. But for me, my
Yeah.
immediate filter is this a kind of person that has what I want right now? No,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
that's me. No, that's me. And then if it's like, yeah, this person really has what I want right now. Okay, basket, basket, basket. And then I look at
Right.
them and go,
Right.
which of these do I want to embrace? If any, I pick it up and make it mine. If none, no problem. That's been, and life goes on, and we stay friends. Yeah,
Right. And
I
that's
really like
that's
that
part of the
process.
difference.
Mm,
That's part of the difference with someone with ADHD. They take in everything because they're
mm,
so unsure about themselves because they feel so different. And their thoughts are, what's wrong with me that I can't do this? What's wrong with me
mm,
that I can't get the grades or do as well in this area or that area? So I think it starts, I mean, if you're able to do that, pull that in, look at it and say, I don't need it. Or, yeah, I do need it. That's great because your
mm,
self-worth and who you are is higher than those that
mm,
are struggling. There's something wrong with me. I can't figure it out. I don't know what's wrong with me. And if you have a diagnosis, it doesn't mean that here's the diagnosis. Here, I can point this out and say, this is what's wrong with me. It's here's your diagnosis. Now, what can we do with it? For
mm,
women, it's very common that we are not diagnosed until we're older, not in
mm,
elementary school, not in middle school, not in high school. It's usually when we're older because of the way we exhibit the ADHD. Men
mm,
exhibit it more physical, or boys exhibit more physically. Girls and women exhibit it more in a quiet internal way. So
mm.
there is both on both sides, but it's more common for men to exhibit this way and women to exhibit this way. So we end up being diagnosed later in life most of the time.
I want you to talk more about I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. And this negative comment means I'm hopeless, useless, a failure. I want you to sit there and kind of give us more there because I feel like a lot of people are bruised from there.
Mhm.
And really, sometimes the comment is just what it is. Somebody's probably even bringing their trauma and reposting it on you. Or somebody's just really trying to help and they don't know what they don't know. Or somebody's really just trying to help you, but they don't know how to say it. Or maybe even it's not an attack or a criticism. Sometimes it's just a comment or just some feedback. But through your lens, it says, you're not good enough. You're not worthy. Help me understand that part. And for the person who's struggling
Mhm.
with that, help them with the new way to think about it, because that's a big one. It's a big one.
It is a big one.
Mm,
In the ADHD world and in anyone who's neurodivergent, that is a
mm,
huge one because we are told that, well, why can't you be good enough? Even that comment right there, and it may not be something that's meant to be negative, but it is interpreted on our side, run through our filter as, oh, well, if they're saying that, then I am not good enough. I had a comment when I was older and in high school that there was a teacher. My brother was a couple years older than me. And when I
mm,
got into the high school, he said, why can't you be as good as your brother? Why aren't your grades as good as your brother? And, already by then I'd already had that I'm not good enough thought going on. That just validated it and reinforced it. So if we could start seeing the things that we do well at and say, you
mm,
know what, it's okay. If you fail in one area, it's not really a failure unless you quit.
mm,
If you're going to fail, take that as a learning experience or a lesson or whatever
mm,
you want to be able to say, you know what, that didn't work. That step was terrible. So why don't I try a different step? And be able to take that failure and twist it and turn it back into something that is not failing. It's,
mm,
oh, it didn't work. It's just information. If we can twist that thought of I'm a failure, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, and look at it and say, whoa, 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 you are good enough, or you wouldn't be here. You are good enough because you do things different. Everybody in the world needs to be doing things different. And guess what else? If you were redundant and doing the same thing everyone else is saying, or doing the same thing everyone else is doing, then what? It's a cookie cutter pattern, and what do we have? Boring, right? World is
mm.
boring, and there's no new growth, and there's no new things that we come up with. So instead of being embarrassed or shamed or throwing blame, step back and just say, you know what, today, one thing I'm good enough is I got up and I made my bed. I know that sounds silly, but that is one thing that you accomplished that you can start that stepping stone to getting to the things that you know you're good enough at. And then it gets to
Mm.
the higher levels, higher levels.
I really
When
love
somebody starts
this.
running,
Mm.
when somebody starts running and they go out to run, do they run a marathon right away? Absolutely not. They don't have the
Mm.
stamina, they don't have the training, they don't have the skills, the tools. It's the same concept. When you first learn that you have ADHD, look for the tools, look for the steps, look for the things that will make you healthy. There's a diet component, there's a learning component, there is all different components that play into this.
Mm.
If you just go out and try and run the marathon, what are you going to do? At some point, you're going to collapse.
Mm.
So instead of doing that, how about you learn the steps?
I really like the piece of give it a different meaning because it really doesn't help when you wake up and then your parents say, now we're taking you to the hospital. And then the doctor said, okay, you have this disorder. And now it just becomes like a label. And then you feel stigmatized. And some people might even
Mhm.
get on the pill depending on the disorder. And then you really get this association of I'm not good enough. And sometimes someone can, I don't know, a parent can even just like, why are you not blank? And that can really cause trauma. And I like what you're saying, like when you just stop and give it a new meaning. My husband has
Mhm.
ADHD, but he notices trends I don't. He sees danger far away I don't. He sees urgent stuff I don't. Like I could burn in the house until the fire is here, I don't see it. He can smell it from the trend that probably comes in the market. Like when AI came, I was the last person to
Mhm.
get on it. And every day he
Mhm.
would tell me, you need to get on it. I'm like, yeah, you need to get. And he was like, I'm going to drag you into AI because now you're getting really late. And I'm like, really? And then somehow I got into AI. So if I didn't marry him, I probably wouldn't be using AI today. And I think that it's really beautiful when you can go, but what can I do that other people can't do? Like I have a friend who has an autistic child,
Mhm.
and she has come to a point where she tells people who tell her that the child has a problem to say like, but let's hold on. Who tells you that your world is the normal world? Like, why isn't this child allowed to say that your world is awkward? Like, it's just that you don't
Mhm.
understand their world because they have like superpowers as well, and they can decide you're awkward. They can decide you're too slow. They can decide you're weird. They can decide you have a problem and you need fixing because you're not like them. And so she has
Mhm.
really turned it around. And when people talk about her son like that, she says, so why can't your child do that? Because he does like
Right.
extremely special things. And so when they come and say,
Right.
well, it's like, yeah, why can't your child do that? What he's doing right now? Maybe your child needs help. And so like flip it around and go, yeah, so why can't you do 5 things at a go? Like, why not? What's the
Right.
superpower in whatever the label
Right.
is, and just take that and like just own it. Like literally for me
Yeah.
it was just a matter of saying, moving from saying ADHD to ADHD genius. Like that was it for us in the marriage, and now ADHD is welcome and celebrated and accepted, and there's
Right.
no stigma around it. So how can you flip the coin around and use whatever the thing that is trying to put you in a corner to your advantage because it has indeed a gift below the gift?
Absolutely.
Mm.
And you were saying how your husband can see things before you
Yeah.
see it, or
Yeah.
he can understand things before you understand it. Part of
Mm.
it is his gift of curiosity, being able to say, "Oh, I want to know more." Okay? But there's also other aspects. I mean, there are many people with ADHD that pick up on the micro behaviors, micro movements that people make and know automatically that person over there is struggling. I need to go talk to them. Or
Mm.
that person over there is pretty funny. I want to go hang out with them. There are small things that we don't realize that actually are superpowers or gifts or however you want to describe it. And what it does is it enhances who you are and
Mm.
creates more to your gift than others around you. So it's
Mm.
embracing it and looking at it and say, well, just because they can't figure it out or they don't see it doesn't mean that I'm wrong because I don't see it. or because I do see it, sorry. And so it's just being excited about what are the new things you can learn? What are the new things that you can do? What are the things that you're doing now that are so much better? And if you can't figure out how to do, I don't know, algebra, okay, so what? Look at
Who
all the things
says
you can't.
who needs
Right.
algebra?
I know, I don't. But it's getting in that mindset of instead of looking what's wrong with me, what can't I do? What's the problem? Switching it over and saying, what can I do? What if I can't do that right now? What can I do to get to that point? You know, if you want to be a business owner, what can I do to be a business owner? Well, maybe first you need to take the job to learn the skills, and then you go off and do your own. It's not impossible. And there's nothing wrong with you if you do something different. In fact, if you're doing something different, it may be the beginning stage of getting it to a point where other people can achieve it too.
I really
I
like
mean,
the yeah.
I was going to say Amazon. He started out
Mm,
selling books. Now look what he's doing. You know,
mm,
it's taking that first step and being willing to say, I'm good enough and I'm going to try it. And if it fails in the world is what the world calls it, it's not a failure. It's just more information.
I really like, especially for the fact that you said it just means you're not a cookie cutter. It just means you're not a cookie cutter. So if you're doing business, you're going to stand out. And why would you want to be a cookie cutter? Well, who says that's a good thing? Because that's the fastest way to just mix with the noise. It's just be like everybody else. So
Yeah.
look at it like a superpower and less of a disability. And soon you will find a superpower because there is a superpower in whatever the thing is labeled on you. There is a superpower. The problem is when you label it as a problem, then you may never get the superpower of it.
Right. You
You
may
know?
never see the gift underneath it.
Yeah. Like I am Ugandan. My husband is a British. And trust me,
Okay.
those cultures have like a way they can hit each other. Opposite. Like he may decide I'm rude and I'm decide I'm being funny. He may think he's being funny and I think that's sarcastic. And so we clash all the time. But also there is a lot of power in the difference or the intersection. And you can either focus on the bad or you can focus on that intersection because the intersection is much more powerful than anybody can tell you. But sometimes you focus on the difference. You focus on the bad. You focus on the thing that is not. But you need to focus on like what's the intersection? Like
Right.
what is the bits of a ADHD and whatever the thing is, and the dad. Okay, what can you use with that intersection? I'm an ADHD person and married to whatever. What can you do with that intersection? I'm an ADHD mother. What can you use with that intersection? Look, I think for me, like the secret is in the intersection. You're this and this and
Yes.
this and this. I can do this. Like, what's that intersection? Because in there lies the acceptance. You're this and this and this, and that's
Exactly.
okay. You don't have to be this or
Exactly.
this. You can be 5 things, and that's okay. I'm remembering a preacher who said, it's okay to feel like you're moving forward and to feel like your marriage is breaking down. It's okay. And she was like, it's okay to be the woman leader and to be crying at night. It's okay. It's an intersection. It's okay to feel like you're a mother one day to your husband and the wife in one day. It's okay. And I was like, this is so good. Like, it doesn't have to all be perfect. It's okay to have ADHD and probably manage a team and be a dad. Like, it's okay to have things going south and have other
Mm-hmm.
things going extremely well. That's okay. Just have to find like what's the intersection.
It does, because when you, like I said, accept the chaos before, the reason I said accept the chaos is because then you can start thinking outside the box. You could start looking at the problem that's placed right before you and be like, okay, if it doesn't work this way and it doesn't work this way and chaos is going on over here and this person's upset at me and this person, okay, so what? Now what? Move forward. And how can I move forward? What can I do? What are the steps I can take? And you start thinking outside the normal box of what is the step for most people. You go over here on this side and you're like, I try this step over here. And then all of a sudden things fall into place. So it's being able to be adjustable, think outside the box, looking at things differently instead of in the same way everyone else does.
Try different combinations. You never know where the superpower is going to come from, but you have to be open to trying different combinations. I think
Oh.
this is like having a safe which you've forgotten how to open. Maybe the
Mhm.
solution is try different combinations until you find a combination that unlocks for you. And I think this is kind of the same principle. Is there anything we've left out before we move into how you help people, the offers behind the scenes, and how you really support people on a day-to-day?
I would say the biggest thing is that
Mm,
anything that is said to you is someone else's opinion of you.
mm, mm,
First, find who you really are and stand on that foundation and don't you ever move because you know
mm,
who you are. Don't let everybody else around you tell you who you are. When you
mm,
start letting that in, that's when things start to crumble and you start to step out of your own self-worth.
I like it. What I would like to say at this point is, before we move into the offers, what I would like to say is the first thing I would do personally is I would get to resolve the feelings of not enoughness,
Mhm.
not worthy. Nothing I ever do
Absolutely.
is enough. Shame, blame, guilt. If you have to find yourself a
Yep.
healer, you do that. If you have to heal that inner child, you need to do that because the doctors
Ab-
don't help. The medical system doesn't help. Sometimes the parents don't help. We've gone through school, we've gone through life, and sometimes as kids, people can tell you things. And so sometimes this, whatever the personality disorder is, I don't even know who said they were disorders, but whatever it is, chances are by the time you're an adult, people have planted
Right.
enough, it's like poison in your head to kind of really make you be stuck in this I am not worthy place. And so whatever you need to do to flush that out, I think for me is the first step. Because we
There's
have
a
to find internal acceptance and internal validation and internal worthiness before we can move
Mhm.
on. What would you say is the first step? Like, what should they do to kind of really move forward from the chaos as step one or something?
Step one would be to take the realization that you are the captain of your own ship. So that
Mm,
means you get to create, you get to step into it, and you get to build it. The first
mm,
step is, like I said, accept the chaos.
mm,
Accept where you are right now, right this minute, and realize that's not where you're going to stay.
mm,
Just like a ship, it keeps going when the sails are open. But if the sails close and you close down, what happens? Ship doesn't move.
mm,
So accept the chaos, see where you're at, hit your baseline, and the next step is you are the captain of your ship. What do you want to do? Where are you going? And then
mm.
you set the sails and go.
I love that. No one is coming to save you. You are the person that is going to write the script for this movie because this movie is about you. I love it. Shane, tell us how you help people. What do you have behind the scenes if the listener is going, oh my God, I love her. I wonder if she can help me move faster.
Well, there's a couple things that I'm doing right now. One of them is I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, which helps them to be able to walk through their specific process and helping them create their own system. Because, like I
Mm,
said before, ADHD doesn't mean that everybody does it the same way. The
mm,
other part of it too is that I am creating a way, a new offer of being able to help them learn how to do their own planning, learn how to get through their day-to-day tasks, because sometimes we aren't taught how to function with our brain to be able to get through those tasks. So those
mm,
are the two things that I mainly do right now. I'm working with people, and it's helped them to be able to step out of all that chaos and start moving forward in their life with the way that they need to go.
What I'd like to put in the comment section and in the show notes is a link so they can book a call and have a chat with you. Would that be okay?
Absolutely. I would love to have a
Um,
chat with them.
we're going to put a link below. We'll probably put the website as well. We're going to put a link. And what we want you to do is if you're going, oh my God, this is it. I've been looking for this. Book a call with Shane and see, like, can she help you move faster? Or does she have free things that you can learn from? She's on the socials and everywhere else. If you're the kind of person that is looking for more info, we'll probably put that in the show notes. But if you're like, I just need to cut down the time and get help in creating the systems, then there'll be a link in the pinned comment. Just click on that and book a call, and let's see if she can really help you. But as always, really the best way you can help with this is think about who is the person right now that is struggling with ADHD. Who has ADHD right now and it's really ripping them apart? They're anxious, they are in chaos, they are overwhelmed with it. Like, who do you know that has failed to move on in life because of this? And what we want to do is we want you to tap share, and we want you to get the link and drop it in their private space and go, hey, I watched this and I thought about you. May be helpful. Let them watch this and let them see if this really helps. Because really the goal of this podcast is we want to end suffering in the world. We want together, we want to at least reduce suffering in the world. And I feel like a lot of suffering comes from a place of not being aware, ignorance, literally, and thinking that because you have condition X, that's the end of it. No, there is solutions, there's healers, there is systems, there's Shaye, there is people who can help you end the misery. And really, this is the purpose of this podcast. So think about it like this. This is a triangle, and I need to get a better thing to demonstrate with. But think about it like this. This is Shaye with her gifts. So create systems for ADHD, customized for ADHD brains. This is Prima, and Prima's work is like, I translate the soul. So I listen to her message and make sure that when we come on the podcast, that you can understand exactly what she does and how she does it. So like I'm just translating the soul as I pick it. And then you're down, like you're like our base. If you think about a house, you are our base down here. And what you do is you're the vessel for the message. You're the transporter for the message. And so if you're listening to this podcast right now, you've been selected to be the vessel for this one. You wouldn't be here if there wasn't anyone within your reach for who this message is supposed to change their life. And really the only reason that this guest is here today is because there is a cry in the world for her work. That's why she's on the podcast. Because this is really like a divine podcast. And the reason you're watching this is because you know someone, maybe first degree, whose life depends on this message. It's just how it works. So if you could pause and think, who is this person that I'm being called to share this with, that would be absolutely helpful. And if you're watching this because somebody shared it with you, then you know the drill. It means you do have a connection to the next person who needs this message. And that's how we move this message across the world. The other thing you can do as someone who's listening is hit that subscribe, that follow, that rate, review, comment, whatever the thing is. Because when you do that, this is what happens. You tell the world that there's an assembly here. So think about it as blowing a whistle. When you hit subscribe, you're blowing a whistle and you're saying, you need to come here. There's an assembly here. And really the assembly we are trying to make with this podcast is we're trying to end suffering in the world. And by hitting subscribe, you're literally blowing a whistle and saying who else needs to reduce suffering in this world. Because this podcast is really for people who are gifted and they're trying to use their gifts to reduce suffering in the world. And if you're listening, chances are you're one of them, or you're being called, or something inside of you is being stirred. Or maybe you have gifts that need stirring. You wouldn't otherwise listen if you didn't have divine gifts, and if those gifts were not meant to reduce suffering in the world. So that's where we are at. I will trust that you will do your part, and everything will just turn out beautifully. Shaye, what would you like for your parting words to be with us?
Don't wait. Don't wait. Because I know a lot of us are like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. You can. You can move forward. So let's be that captain of your own ship and be able to move forward. So stop waiting, get moving, and let's go.
Love it. My last words of wisdom are these. Whatever the thing is that you've been labeled with, whether it's ADHD, whether it's, I don't know, PSTD, whether it's, I don't know what the thing is that you have as a label right now. Whatever that is, there's two ways to look at it. It can be a disability, but it can also be a superpower. I don't know what you choose, but I choose to call it a superpower. And when you look at it as a superpower, now we have a different lens. We have an empowering lens. And when you look at it as a superpower, now you have the ability to dig deep and find the gift that is buried below the gift. If you look at it as a disability, now you can see the result that you will get from that. Because if you see it as a disability, you're going to be searching for every sign that you're disabled. If you look at it as a superpower, now you're going to be saying, oh, what's the gift below the gift? Below the gift, below the gift. And chances are just the choice of that is going to be helpful in one way or the other. So what I would say is just flip around and call it a superpower, and then use that to dig deep and find the actual gift below the gift. Because I can guarantee you that whatever the thing is you're labeled with, somebody does not have it. Somebody does not have that skill. Someone does not have that ability. Somebody wishes they had a part of that. And so embrace it and just find a way to just use it to thrive, as Shane just said here. Appreciate you. Until next time, I know that together we can really reduce suffering in the world. Thank you for being a part of this show. Appreciate you, love you, celebrate you. And Shane, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest. I've learned so much. But what I like to celebrate is not just today's appearance on the podcast. What I'd like to celebrate is everything that happened before this moment, everything that happened in the wilderness, because best kept secrets have a lot in the wilderness than they have on the camera or on the stage. And so really for me, I'd like to celebrate all those years, all those things that happened before this moment that have made this moment very impactful for the community. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us, your gifts with us, and your story with us. Really appreciate you, and hope that this message will land in the right hands.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, have a great one. We'll talk to you very, very soon.